Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Dieson Crusoe, an adventure survival game for only one player. And the scenario is familiar. You are stuck on an island with lots of danger around every corner, and you are just trying to survive. Sound familiar? Well, let's head down to the table, I'll show you how it plays, and then we'll come back here, and I'll let you know what I think about it. Okay, here we see the setup for a game of Dieson Crusoe, solo game where you are going to be trying to resolve quests. And what you see here is the recommended setup for the first quest, which is called Survive. And so you look at this and it'll tell you the requirements you need to be successful. Number one, you'll need to hunt a deer. Number two, you'll need to make a rope, and you'll need to do this within 6 days. So these are the requirements for this particular quest. There are more quests, and it's recommended you do them in order, and they'll get progressively more difficult. There are 7 quests total. All right, you can play them in any order, but the first time through, you should definitely play them in order. All right, so the recommended setup for the first game was that you play as the hunter, okay? So here's the hunter. What it tells us is that it has 5 health, and it has a particular bonus on the hunting action, which would make sense. There is a harder version of these different cards. Let me show you some of the other ones here. You've got the Pathfinder and the Strategist and the Farmer, and all of them have slightly harder in the sense that they have less health. All right, so the hunter is going to start with a strength of 1. It may be a different term in the book, but I'm calling it a strength, that fist symbol there. And so I'll put the yellow cube to denote that. All right. You'll also have a friend, and in this case they recommend Jack as your friend. There are different friends in the game that you can use. Again, only for the first one does it recommend it, but you don't even have to do this for your first game. All right, it also has some items that are available throughout the game. In this case, the recommended start of basket, bed, stone knight, and rope. You would definitely need to have the rope in there, or else there's no way you can complete this quest. So you do have to make sure that if there is an item that's required for the particular quest, that you have it available in the item area. You're going to be starting in this leftmost spot of the map that you'll be traversing around. And what this means is that we are in the rabbit area. There are different areas that as you traverse, you'll be hunting different animals in that area. And so if I were to move into the deer area, I would replace this with the correct one, which is the deer. Okay, the deer has different requirements to defeat it, and it will give you different boons. All right, but in this case, we've got the rabbit. We're in the beginning part of the island. Okay, so on your turn, you're going to be doing 3 different things. First, you're going to be rolling the 3 dice that you have, and you're going to move the event disc. I'll show you that in a moment. Then in the afternoons where you take your actions, you're going to be taking 3 actions, and on each of those, you'll be using a die. The 3 things that you can do is perform the action in the box where the meeple is, craft a tool, or play with my friend. And so crafting a tool and playing with your friend does not require a particular value, but it does require a die. And then performing the action in the box, you're moving it around and you can take that action. Then in the evening, you have to feed, you have to eat, you have to deal with any weather effects that might happen, see if there's a raid, then move the action dice and advance the day disc. So let's just go through that. All right, so first off, you've got the game starts with these dice here in all at a value of 1. You have 2 yellow dice and 1 gray die, and you'll go ahead and roll those. Okay, so in this case, it was 1, 3, 3. What you do is you take these dice and you put them in ascending order. All right, so here it doesn't matter if it's the yellow one or the gray one. I'm going to be doing that. Then you see this symbol. It means you're going to be moving this event disc the number of spaces of your lowest number. In this case, it's 1. So I just slide it 1, and each of these are going to have some kind of an effect. Some of them are immediate, like this. Get another food, which you're going to track down here. This is my food tracker. Wood, stone, and pelts, roofs, and fences. Okay, so all we had to do here was get a nice little bonus of a food. Here you'd be able to choose. Here is for stone. Now, for some of these boxes, you'll see a little star here. For those, you have to account for star values, which I can get to in a minute. But here, you don't need any stars here. You don't need any here. It'll tell you basically if they need stars, which are related to die values here. It can show you a 1 gives you no star value, 2 and 3 gives you a 1, 4 and 5 gives you 2 stars, a 6 would give you 3 stars. All right, so we've rolled the dice, we've moved the event disk, and now we take our 3 actions in any order we like. We can use these dice in any way. A couple of things to note when you're choosing your dice is that normally you're going to be moving clockwise around this little rondelle type path. However, if it's a 1, you can choose to go either clockwise or counterclockwise. If it's the gray die, you can also choose to go clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay? So, if I started here, which is where they start, let's say, for example, that I want to go here. It doesn't require a star value, and that's good because the 1 doesn't provide any stars. So I will move it 1, and then I will place this die down here saying that this was my first used die. Here I can get food, I can get wood, I can get stone. Looking over here at the rope, which I know I'm going to need to make, it does require wood, so maybe I would go ahead and just take a wood there. All right. So now I've got a couple of 3s, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do this. I will use this 3. I will go 1, 2, 3. And what this is telling me is that I'm going to get a number of wood according to the star value. The star value of a 3 is 1. If I had done that with a 4, I would have gotten 2 wood, but in this case, I'm only getting the 1. There are ways to mitigate those dice or movements. If I wanted to instead go to a place that was adjacent to the place I stopped, I could instead pay a wood and go to one of the adjacent spaces. So this is where I ended up. I can spend a wood to get here or to go there. All right. I also can spend food to increase temporarily the value of the die to make it go further than it would normally. All right. So I did my second action with that. And then my third action, let's say perhaps 1, 2, 3. I can go back there. 1, 2, 3. Let's say I had done this. I'd gone 1, 2, 3, because it's the gray die, and I want to go to a adjacent space. I want to go to this one. So I'll spend a wood to do that, and I end up here. This stays the same value. It's just a temporary adjustment. All right. This is a move action, and this requires stars. So I had 3 stars. That means that I'm going to have 1. I had a value of 3. That means I have 1 star. I can move 1 place on this map because each path is going to have a star value, and the star value to move 1 is there. There's a food symbol on it, so I would get yet another food. That just gives you an idea. This is movement. This is gathering one of these resources of your choice. Stones for star value, wood for star value, fighting, hunting for star value, meaning the number of fists. Healing for star value, but not above your maximum health, and food for star value. This is building fences. If you spend stone and wood, you can get 2 fences. This is building a roof. If you spend a pelt and a wood, you can get 2 roofs. All right, so those are all the actions that you can take along that little space there. Now we would do the evening phase, which is we have to eat, meaning that we would spend a food. If we didn't have food to spend, we'd have to spend a health instead. Now we have to check the raid value. So here, you're going to be, weather first and then raid. So here what you're going to be doing is you're going to be referring to these values for the die on the right. So at the beginning of the game, it's set up so that you're not going to have anything bad happen, because a 1 or a 2 in this spot means sunny weather. Nothing happens. If a 3 or a 4 was in that spot, it would mean that you'd have to get rid of a roof. If you could not do that, you'd have to get rid of a health. And if it was a 5 or a 6, it would be 2. here is the rating value, and if there's a 5 or a 6 in this spot, you would have a raid. You'd consult the area card that you're currently in, which in this case is the rabbit, and it says if there's a raid, you have to lose a food. If you can't do that, you lose a health. If you lose all your health, you lose this quest. All right? So once you've done that, you would remove the dice from the right side and then slide all of these dice over for the next day, and you can see that now you'll have different values that you are evaluating for that weather and raid condition. You would move the day marker down to day 2, and you would do that again. The friend here, basically, you can spend stars if you take the as one of your actions with your die, because you can always do the action where you end up. You can do the action of your friend, I think they call it playing with your friend, or you can buy an item, which you would do simply by paying the costs at the top. In the case of the stone knife here, you'd have to spend 3 stone, and you also would have to have at least 1 star available from the die that you chose for that action. All right. For the friend, basically, you are moving it a space when you take that action. And at any time, you can go back to the start and gain whatever it's showing on the item on the card there. So if I here decided to go back to the beginning, I would do that, and I would get 1 wood. If I were up here instead and decided to go back, I would get 2 wood. All right. That's the general concept of the game. That's a general flow of a game. And then again, you would have to fulfill whatever it says on the quest to be successful. If you ever run out of health, or if you go past the day requirement, you lose that quest and you start again. All right, that's going to do it for the overview. Let's head back and let you know what I think. So as I alluded at the intro of this video, this is a game that very clearly models itself on Robinson Crusoe, an earlier, much larger and more sprawling adventure survival board game that has been, you know, in the hobby sphere for many, many years now, and it's been quite popular. So your mileage may vary whether you find the theme just strictly derivative, or if you find it to be a clever riff on a much big brother or big sister type of game. I fall into that latter category. I don't think that this is trying to hide its affinity for Robinson Crusoe, and so I think it's charming that they are taking a game that is much more epic and sprawling in scope and shrinking it down both physically and design space scope to a much smaller package. So again, that'll be up to you whether you feel it's derivative or not. All right, so beyond the theme, let's talk a little bit about the art and the components. Now, this is a smaller game. As you can see, it kind of comes in this old school VHS tape case that if you were around in the times of Blockbuster is very, very familiar to you. Thankfully, you don't have to rewind this one. And as such, the components are a bit minimal, but what there is here generally is good. The dice, they're small wooden dice, but they roll very well. They feel hefty enough. You don't feel like, you know, you're not really getting a good randomization on that. The cubes are very, very basic and functional, which is fine. Again, I don't think this is a game that you would need fancy upgraded pieces. The cards are of good quality. The biggest issue I have with the production revolves around these kind of, I don't even know what you call them. Like they're the kind of material that you have for cleaning your glasses. You know what I mean? That kind of microfiber. And while it feels nice in your hands and it works fine on the table as far as laying flat and all of those things, I mean, there's little creases in it, but they don't really affect the usability. The biggest usability factor with this is that things are printed very small and certain things are very, very difficult to distinguish. The biggest offender for that, in my mind, is the different areas on this map. They're all separated by a very, very faint white dotted line. You really have to zero in and try to find out, okay, where are the unique regions? Which area am I in? There's a little help in the fact that each area has a distinct signpost, so it might be a rabbit or a deer or a bison, but that's not enough. It should be more distinct on this map, and it's a shame that it's not, because it does make things a bit more difficult. Also, due to the size constraints of the game itself, some of the iconography can be a little bit challenging to read, so that is something to keep in mind. One other issue that I had in a kind of a usability type of a thing is that when you're going through the evening steps, which is down here along this bottom part of the this little map here, or excuse me, little thing, still microfiber, they have three symbols along the top. You have an hourglass, you have a cloud with the sun poking behind it, and then you have the raid, kind of an animal claw type of a thing. The first part of that hourglass, has absolutely no significance for most of the game, and it's not explained at all in the rule book. There's one particular item that utilizes that hourglass symbol. I don't think they should have put a big prominent symbol for something that is not used throughout most of the game. All right, so there are the negatives with the production and the UI. Now let's talk about the gameplay, and that's where I feel this really shines. A lot of times when you get these solo-only games, they feel like a bit of a narrow focus as far as the gameplay. The decision space oftentimes is much smaller than it is in, larger, fully fledged, so to speak, games. In Dieson Crusoe, that does not feel the case. You have a lot of different things that you can do to kind of approach each quest in a different way. The character you choose matters because they have a particular special ability that could be more or less helpful depending upon the quest that you happen to be playing. The items are a huge deal. Now, like I said, sometimes you have an item you have to complete the quest, but you have three other items that can be crucial to your success. So you almost have to start thinking of how you're going to approach that quest before you start it by choosing the correct character and the correct items to be most likely to help you succeed in that quest. So that is cool. The different quests, there are 7, which is not a tremendous amount, but they feel very distinctly different, and they do get more challenging. Speaking of challenging, there are several ways that you can make the game more difficult as well if you're finding it too easy. I did not have much of a struggle completing the quests in the first third of the game or so, maybe a little more than that, but things did definitely get more difficult, and if I wanted to start off very difficult from the very beginning, then I could easily implement those difficulty changes. The kind of the flow of the turns is satisfying. And I like the fact that you're going to be drafting 3 dice every day, but that sometimes you're going to be using the die for a star value to help you kind of increase the strength of one of the actions you're taking. But you can also use a die to play with your friend. You can also use a die why am I missing the third part? Play with your friend. Oh, use an item, okay? And sometimes those items do require star values on them, okay? So I think it's clever. I think that the way that the game flows is clever. I think that the decision space is satisfying. I think that this is a nice package, a nice production with those very specific, and they are a little bit troublesome UI issues in a nice package here. And this is a game that, I would be doing over and over again, because even if you go through them in order and you complete it and you do that final quest, which is kind of like a wrap-up of a story, so to speak, not a very detailed one, but a bit of a story about escaping from the island, you could just, after that, go back and just play some of your favorite quests and try different build, get a different character, try some items that maybe aren't as helpful and give yourself a little bit more of a challenge, things along those lines. Overall, I find this to be a very, very good solo game. The quibbles that I have, the issues, let's not call them quibbles, they are issues that I have with some of the production can be and should be a consideration, but certainly not one that's going to keep me from highly recommending the game. This is an easy recommend for me. I'm going to be giving Dieson Crusoe an 8 out of 10. Really solid survival solo game. There are a few of those out there, but this may be one of my favorite of the survival games for solo players. All right, that's going to do it for me. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from the Dice Tower Midwest Annex.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.